CrowdStrike and Vectra AI, we came together and said, we can do something about this. And so we put a bundle together that not only does technology integration, but also has created a very, very compelling price point such that these class of customers can adopt this very quickly.
Hitesh, Sheth is the president and CEO of Vectra AI. Really grateful for a few minutes of your time. We're sitting down here for a conversation wrapped all around RSAC here in San Francisco, California. It is great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I have heard that the company is called the OG of AI. What is exactly?
Well, we are the OGs of AI. The company is called Vectra AI, but that's 100% true. And just aside, the reason that holds to be true is that if you kind of go back in time when the company started out, well before the AI became the fad that it is right now, we pioneered the use of machine learning techniques, AI techniques in the beginning on network traffic to help customers get ahead of advanced attacks. So that's like Series A slide. That is the slide. That's the money slide. That's how we started out. And then over the course of time, now at this point, we really focus on the enterprise, and our view is that all 99% of the enterprises are going to be hybrid. And when it's a hybrid, they're going to have a combination of public cloud, private data centers, several SaaS applications, and so as a result of that, we look at the enterprise through the lens of attack surfaces, and we identify 6 attack surfaces inside the enterprise. So you've got public cloud, private data centers. You have SaaS applications, identity, you have endpoint, and then, of course, now AI itself. And so as a company, as a business, we address 5 out of 6, so everything but the endpoint. Mm-hmm. So think of us as the platform provider to help do detection response using AI for advanced attacks on all attack surfaces that the endpoint is going to talk to. Right, and so as a result, we've got very tight partnerships with the likes of CrowdStrike, with Microsoft, but that's sort of like the core thesis of the business.
Those are some household names in terms of those partnerships. Undoubtedly, correct. Viewers of this interview are familiar with at least a few of those names. Can you talk to me about how it goes building those relationships to establish trust and confidence with those partners?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and it always starts with the customer. Right, if the customers are looking for a set of vendors to work well together, and if the vendors are smart, they will make sure that they do so. And so, for us, it's a very common ask, and I know it's true for the EDR vendors in this case as well, which is, hey, stitch this for us, right? Don't make us do the heavy lifting. And so because of that ask from the customer base, I have to say, we'll stay with CrowdStrike for a moment. CrowdStrike has been absolutely fantastic to work with. Great group of people. Obviously, the business is doing phenomenally well, but the people are great as well. And as a data point, like just literally yesterday, here at RSA, we did an announcement with CrowdStrike. So we've announced a bundle that combines their platform and our platform, and it's specifically targeting small and medium-sized customers. So you could ask, like, why? And the reason is, most companies like us are really geared towards the enterprise, right? But you've got a very, very large set of customers who are in the lower end of the pyramid of customers who are underserved, and then they usually don't get their hands on the latest and greatest. And usually there's a pricing issue, there's a technology bundling issue, and so CrowdStrike and Vectra AI, we came together and said, we can do something about this. And so we put a bundle together that not only does technology integration, but also has created a very, very compelling price point such that these class of customers can adopt this very quickly.
What are the emerging overall trends in the cybersecurity space that you've noticed over the last few years? And how does that shape and inform the work that you do at Vectra AI in terms of trying to successfully plot the next chapter and the path moving forward?
Yeah. So I would broadly classify 3 material trends that I think that are relevant here. First and foremost, I made this comment about the hybrid enterprise. Well, and I talked about discrete attack surfaces. Attackers also understand this really well. So if you look at any significant major cyber events that are taking place right now, they find a way to leverage all the attack surfaces, right? So as a result of that, it really becomes critical that providers like us, like Vectra AI, we need to be in the business of making sure that for the customer, we can really stitch the narrative together as different events take place, so that it's not left to the SOC inside the enterprise to go and figure this out. So this is trend number one. Trend number two is around, there's been this perpetual gap in resourcing of the SOC. So, security analysts are hard to come by. And so, how do you help them address, and that's not closing anytime soon, okay? So that's where trend number three comes in, which is we really have an opportunity now to take AI, all the pioneering work we did, you can get to a point now where you can truly automate most of the tasks that are going on inside the SOC. It doesn't eliminate the need for a human, because you still need somebody to come in and provide oversight. No matter what, AI is going to be able to glean sufficient context of the enterprise itself. So that's where people come in. But if you want to close this gap, this human need gap that exists inside the SOC, the only way you can do that is through AI. And we are finally at a point where we can say automation, and you and I can have a conversation like this, and it actually can be true. Because if you had asked me the same question 3 years ago, I could have said automation again, because it's not like it's a brand new concept, but technically it would have taken much longer, but we're here. And agentic AI and all the buzzword stuff that's floating at RSA, it actually technically has a chance of it being really true and completely changing the name of the game for the SOC.
I'm glad that you used the phrase buzzword here, because undoubtedly there's a lot of splashy things, a lot of shiny things that distract attention, or at least, maybe distract on the one hand, or are rightfully deserving of conversation on the others. How do you and your colleagues at Vectra AI go about separating signal from noise?
We understand that separating signal from noise has to come through several layers. So the other announcement, and I'll stitch it together for you, is today we announced the completion of our AI agents portfolio. So since 2018, well before this became sort of like the buzzwordy thing that's going on right now, right? We recognize that, okay, for us to deliver the right efficacy, there are several steps that you have to go through to take all the noise and turning into a signal that really matters. So what are the steps? First and foremost, when you put a system like us into a customer's environment, it's going to pick up all the bad stuff that we're seeing, right? But that in itself does not mean that you have to react to every one of them. So one of the first things we do is we take all the signal that we're accumulating and we triage things that don't matter out. That's the first thing we do. Then step number two is, okay, for the things that matter, you got to stitch that into a narrative that somebody can actually consume, right? Once you stitch it together, it allows you to then prioritize out of the stitched narratives, which is the most important narrative, 2 or 3, that you should react to. That's the third step. And then the fourth step is, okay, now that you've identified the things that matter, how do you actually respond to the things you've identified? Each of these steps, the 4 steps I mentioned, from triage to stitching to prioritization, and ultimately the response part, those are all discrete agents that we have in the market. And so today we basically said, all right, we've got agent number 4, AI Analyst is now available as part of our portfolio as well.
Congratulations on the big announcement.
Thank you.
I'm sure it takes a long time to get to an announcement like that.
Well, but like I said, it started in 2018, right? So we are now looking at like 7 years, right, of work, right? And so there are a lot of people out here trying to play catch up on that, but we have done this, the long and the hard way to actually get it right.
Hitesh Sheth is the CEO of Vectra AI. I am very grateful for the fact that you sat down with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for having me.